After getting these out, I use a deep. Where the hell my flashlight go? I use a deep 10 mil quarter inch because it more than likely will not fall into the timing cover. And it's nice and small and easy to move around there. I'll probably have to remove this rag now. The real concern is not so much the bolts, but the piston and spring. So, let's get that bottom bolt out. The tension will kind of drop a little. Tensioner cannot fall into the timing cover, so don't worry about that. Now you see the tensioner is all loose and just kind of hanging out there. Pull it out. Alright, so go ahead and remove your bungee cord. Let that guide fall back down. And it ain't going anywhere, so. Now you need a 19 mil socket. I prefer 1/2 inch drive and 1/2 inch drive ratchet or breaker bar. To spin the crank over to the point where you have slack on the water pump. And there's the water pump right there. So you're not so hard to get to, just kind of tedious crap. And it's still pissing, damn. Yeah, so like I said, I've already drained the radiator, but there's so much left in the block. You pull this water pump out, it will piss everywhere. So you want to get your 19 socket, get on the crank pulley, and turn it clockwise. I think FSM says like 20 degrees. Doesn't really matter. What you want to do is get it over enough where you got all the slack on the timing, on the timing chain slack right on the water pump. There we go. You actually hear the chain rattle when it comes loose in the timing on the water pump there. Let's see, just. Yep. Okay, so now up to actually removing the water pump. You got 3 bolts in the water pump, as you saw before. They're all 10 millimeter head. I just went ahead and broke them all loose. I'm going to take them out now. And the nice part about this area is the way it's designed underneath the water pump. It's designed in such a way that if you take out one of these bolts and drop it, it won't go into the timing cover. At least all the times I've dropped these bolts, I've never had one go in the timing cover, and I just jinxed the hell out of myself by saying that. So you may get something nice caught on film. So one up there at the top, one over here, very straightforward. Oh wait, yeah. There's one, and also wanted to show you the shaft play on this one. You can see that. Yeah, that bottom plate ain't moving at all. That's all shaft, so to speak. So yeah, that's why it was leaking. Why it was pissing, really. You saw before, it wasn't nothing. Usually I park it, it's just a steady stream of water for, I don't know, a couple of minutes. At least it seems like that long. It's ridiculous. Okay, and you really want to keep all your bolts separated. I've done this job a billion times, so pretty well versed in where everything goes. But a lot of these bolts, you know, longer or shorter, there's certain lengths on these. Like if you put one of these water pump bolts back in on the access cover plates, this is a lot longer, and you'll probably bottom it out before it actually secures that access cover on there. So, bad idea. Okay, now to jacking out the water pump. To jack out the water pump, you need 2 bolts. Now these are 8x125. That's 8 mil shaft diameter, 1.25 thread pitch. Do not confuse this with an 8 millimeter head bolt, because those are well, 10 is 6, so there's probably a 4 mil. But you have a 12 millimeter head, and lucky you, pretty much every 12 millimeter head bolt on the car is 8x125. And I believe it was Mismology that says he uses the I don't know what the hell they are, but the 2 of the bolts that hold on the tensioner bracket, because those are the perfect length and obviously size and thread pitch. Now I believe the FSM calls for 8x125, 40 mil, 40 mil in length. I'm just using whatever random bolts I found laying around. But no, this is where most people get confused. They don't quite understand the concept of jacking out the water pump, and honestly, I can't blame them. It is actually brilliant. But alright, so you have 6 mil bolts go through this, the 10 millimeter head, and of course they just slide right through. Now, these 2 side bolts here are threaded for 8x125. Now, of course, an 8 mil bolt won't go into a 6 mil hole, so it actually pushes against the outside of the hole. These 12 mil bolts thread into these ears in the water pump, and when you tighten them down evenly, mind you, not just one at a time, or half turn, half turn. When you tighten them down, they push through, push against the rear timing cover where that 6 mil hole is, where this normally would be bolted to. They push against that, and it actually walks the pump right off. And like I said, it's a brilliant design. It's a brilliant design. But most people don't realize that. Well, I had bolts in there before. You just put more bolts back in. Why isn't how's it pushing the pump out? Now you know. It's pretty cool. How about a water pump? Okay, so go ahead and thread these bolts in, top and bottom, as it is when it's in the car. Find the damn hole. There you go. Thread them into the water pump. Okay, once those are threaded in, I prefer to use a 1/4 inch drive with a short 12 mil socket. You can see the 2 12 mil bolts threaded in right there and right there. You just want to run them in until you feel pressure on them. That's them pushing against the inner timing cover. And just give them a little, a couple of turns at a time. You walk the water pump out. While you're doing this, you want to make sure that that timing chain is slid off of the gear on the pump, or else you would get caught up on that timing chain and the pump was never going to come out. So as you move from bolt to bolt, just run your finger along the back side of that water pump gear. Make sure the timing chain is off of it. Oh, there we go. You can hear it pissing, and actually I see it pissing too. And it's going down timing cover into the oil pan and right into the drain pan, because I still got the drain bolt out, that drain plug out of the oil pan, and the drain pan is sitting right underneath it. Okay, now the tricky part is actually removing the damn water pump from the car. What I do is jack the engine up, and honestly I can never remember exact orientation. I don't remember it being as much of a pain in the ass on the Pearl. It's possible that the frame rail on this car is tweaked, and you may just be able to zip yours right the hell out. But in this car, this is the worst part of the timing pump job, or the water pump job. Wow, is actually get the water pump out of the car. The tricky part is getting it back in with O-rings on it without destroying the damn O-rings. Is that it? Yep, there we go. Or not. What a tease. I had to flip it backwards with the timing gear side pointing the other way. But, camera driving. I don't know if you can see that. Got a good amount of play, and listen to that bearing. Yeah, God knows how long it's been in there. I imagine not that long, because these aftermarket pumps seem to fail pretty often, but listen to this OEM pump. Nothing. That pump is fucking 95 model, so 15 years old. Yeah. Let me actually see also. This O-ring, it's got a gap. That's why it was pissing coolant into my oil. The coolant ring is still good. I just replaced these with a Felpro set, because I was actually going to put them on the OEM pump to get up and running with a good pump. Until I realized that OEM and aftermarket O-rings will not work with each other. Yeah. I'll talk more about that later. Before you install your water pump, I'm going to go in there and just run rag over the mating surfaces for the O-rings. You also want to check them by finger or by hand for the for nicks, burrs, gouges, scratches, anything that would cause those O-rings to not seal. Now, if you find something, well, you shouldn't find anything, but if you do, for some reason, you may have to replace the inner timing cover. Hope you don't have to, because that's a pain in the ass. Which more than likely, well, for most people, I mean, they want to pull the motor. First, I've removed the timing cover in the car, just the outer, not the inner. And it was, while being a major pain in the ass, not too bad. It's much like this job. It takes a long time, it's tedious, you got a small space to work in, but it's not actually difficult in any way. But, so grab your prepped water pump, the O-ring's already on it, put some lube on the O-rings, and I'll get to installation. Okay, I've spared you the time spent in trying to finagle the fucking water pump down in there without destroying the O-rings. Which actually wasn't that bad. So, now it's in there, I've inserted it and moved the chain out of the way. You always gotta remember that. Get the chain out of the way, or else it won't go in. Okay. Now what I do after pushing the water pump in place, after getting it in place with the chain around it, not behind it, is I put in the two tensioner mounting bolts in the upper and lower. This is just to guide it in straight. This isn't to draw it in with the bolts, because they'll bottom out well before the pump ever reaches, before it's ever fully seated. So let's put the upper and lower bolts in there to make sure that it's lined up properly. Make sure the chain's out of the way. Then just push it in as far as you can by hand, evenly. Trying to push on the center of the pump, just to get it close enough. It's where you can put in your three water pump mounting bolts, or well, the side one for now, just to again keep it lined up. This is where I tend to drop them, but like I said, they just kind of wedge in between the water pump timing gear and the timing cover. There we go, that's in. And they don't actually fall inside the timing cover. So, get your side bolt in, and remove the other two, one at a time, and replace them with the actual bolts. If you push it in far enough, you should be able to catch the threads on the timing cover. And I didn't. Oh, there we go. Now you can actually walk the pump in with just your hand in a socket. But now remove the lower bolts. It's kind of difficult for me. If you don't have a 1/4-inch ratchet and a bunch of sockets, this job will likely be more of a pain in the ass for you than it should be. Oopsie. I didn't need those.